listening to the Sports Circus, and I'm Mike Golick.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, of course, the king of all, those massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had. Probably be the best you ever had as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and our independents from coast to coast. From Honolulu all the way down to South Florida. Big hello to our friends listening in, or better yet, and watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and Wow Cable affiliates, and Hotel TV in all Nielsen-rated markets. When you're tuning in, folks, this is a lot of fun. And, of course, first of all, a big Happy New Year to everybody who's listening in. Yes! Hopefully everybody had a nice, safe New Year. And we'll have a fantastic 2024. I think everybody will. At least everybody's getting off to a good start. Except for Wander Franco. Oh, yeah, this guy, Wander Franco. Now, as of, about 1:41 Eastern time, or better yet, 1:41 Pacific time, well, a small problem has occurred. Now, there are reports by multiple outlets that say Tampa Bay Rays shortstop Wander Franco got arrested in the Dominican Republic for missing a summons over alleged relationship with a minor. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. Now, all media outlets have this one out there, but folks, we're going to give a little bit of spin on this, a little bit of extra thought on this. First, let's just kind of get through this so we'll catch everybody up here, and you'll hear exactly what allegedly had happened. Now, the Tampa Bay Rays shortstop Wander Franco has been arrested in the Dominican Republic after he failed to show for a scheduled meeting with prosecutors regarding an investigation into an alleged inappropriate relationship with a minor, according to multiple reports. Now, of course, Franco was summoned by Dominican authorities last week and scheduled to meet with Specialized Prosecutor's Office for Children and Adolescents in the Santo Domingo. And he didn't show for that meeting, prompting a search by authorities in his hometown residence in Bani, according to the Associated Press. Now, Franco's whereabouts remain unknown until he arrived in Santo Domingo with his lawyers, according to Spanish-language outlet Diario Libre and other publications. Now, reporter Hector Gomez initially reported that the meeting with prosecutors led to Franco's address. Now, the four-letter network reports that Franco was arrested specifically for his failure to appear last week, and not because of advancement in the investigations into his alleged inappropriate relationship. Well, hell, if that was the case, why the hell did they arrest him in the first place? Nonetheless, Diario Libre and Listín Diario also confirmed that Franco had been detained. Now, authorities also detained the mother of the minor who initially made the complaint, according to reports. What Franco is charged with was not initially clear. Now, Gomez reports that Franco is scheduled to be arraigned and that prosecutors plan to ask him to remain jailed without bail as the process continues. So they're going to ask him, hey, by the way, buddy, do you want to hang out here for a little bit and maybe get a little cozy? That's not the case. No. Now, allegations that Franco had engaged in a relationship with an underage girl initially surfaced on social media back in August, and Major League Baseball launched an investigation, and the Rays placed Franco on the restricted list on August 14th. Major League Baseball placed him on administrative leave just 9 days later, and he played his final game of last season on August the 12th. Now, an initial complaint that Franco had allegedly engaged in an inappropriate relationship was reportedly filed way back on July 17th before the allegations went to the public on social media. And the Four Letter Network reported back on August 30th that a second underage girl had accused him of engaging in an inappropriate relationship and that authorities were investigating an alleged third one on top of it. This is ridiculous. The age of consent in the Dominican Republic is 18 years of age, like most places here in the United States, and Franco is 22, was in the midst of his third Major League Baseball season when the allegations surfaced. He made his first All-Star team, that was this year, and slashed 281, 344, 475 with 17 homers, 58 RBIs, 30 stolen bases in 112 games before his season ended in August. And the Rays were swept to the first round of the 2023 postseason by the eventual World Series champion Texas Rangers. So this guy signed an 11-year, $182 million contract with the Rays just a couple of years ago. I'm kind of curious what's going to happen with that contract now. Now, folks, we're talking about a real problem here. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this because we think of guys like the immortal Pete Rose. Everyone says, well, Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. As a player, Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. And there had been reports. Now, I cannot confirm. I do not know. I wasn't there. There had been reports that Pete Rose had some inappropriate relationships, I suppose, as we were told at one time, who knows if it's true or not, by some other sources. And it was widely reported. Now, I don't know what happened with Pete Rose with that, but then again, that's neither here nor there, because here we have a situation with Wander Franco apparently having some kind of inappropriate relations or alleged relations with three people that are under the age of consent. Now, in the United States of America, the age of consent, I guess you could take a poll. Now, we had looked around a little bit, and it varied a little bit from state to state, right? So we have federal laws and we have state laws, and sometimes the water gets a little murky there, just like it does with the legalization of recreational cannabis and this kind of thing. So the laws do vary from, I guess, state to state. But now in the Dominican Republic, the age of consent being 18 years of age, there's a problem here. So now this guy is a failure to appear. Now I wonder, what is the legal side, their argument as to why he was a failure to appear? So here in this country, if you're a failure to appear in court, as I understand it, there's a bench warrant in many cases issued for an arrest. So if you don't appear in court, for example, if you have a traffic ticket, we'll just keep it as simple as possible. So all you people listening in your car, if you're speeding, you get pulled over, the cop gives you a ticket, and then you have a court date set. And if you don't show up to the court date or settle prior to that, with traffic school or whatever the hell it is, the options are available, well, then a bench warrant is issued. Now, what that means is they're not going to go out and pursue you, being the local authorities. They're going to wait for you to screw up somehow. And then they'll run the old NCIC, for the National Crime Information Center, scan and find out if there are any outstanding warrants. And so in this country, this is sort of the process here. Of course, like anything else, it depends on the degree of assault, or not that assault, but the degree of the infraction, I should say. So if that's the case, now I've been pulled over in the Dominican Republic, and I've been shaken down, or attempted to, in Santo Domingo, ironically. This was 11 years ago. And so I know, I've seen this movie. It's not a good movie. It's 11 and a half years ago, right out of the airport. Pulled over because I was a tourist or whatever. They told me to make a turn and go down this private area so they could essentially take my license, which I refused to give them my license, and take my money. This is what happened to me in my case. And this is no further than maybe a half a kilometer away from the airport, right when you get on the I guess their freeway or expressway, but call it what you will. Anyway, this is what happened to me. So I know from my own experience they could be a little bit underhanded in the Dominican Republic. But with this case with Rondo Franco, I'm wondering if this guy actually had inappropriate relations, or somebody said they were led to believe that was the case. And this is the problem. So now if he had done this is a real problem. What happens with that $182 million contract with the remaining 8 years of the contract? I don't know. But this is going to be an enormous loss for the Tampa Bay Rays, because this is a young and up-and-coming superstar. And what an enormous loss this would be if this guy had to go serve time or whatever it is. But frankly, folks, this is a really bad example from adult leadership if it's the case. We don't know if it's the case because we haven't seen any details. We don't have any hard data. We have to just wait for somebody local to report on it, and maybe the AP will pick it up like they did with this story. Who knows? All I know is this is one gigantic mess Wander Franco is going to have to swim his way out of. And folks, this water is very murky and it is full with crocodiles. So good luck, Wander Franco. And if you did something wrong, buddy, you got a big problem. If not, good for you. Get on with your baseball game. Back here in a few minutes on the Circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-13376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to to your door without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Al Bubba Baker, quarterback breaker and the rib maker.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Legal Shield. 213-245-1305. Check them out online. Email, that would be info@nocourt.us. That's info@nocourt.us. Get all kinds of help on the legal side. And folks, tell them the Sports Circus sent you. 213-245-1305 for our friends over at Legal Shield. Nice round of applause for them. Yeah, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from our friends all the way over in Honolulu on KHKA, CBS Sports 1500, home of the New York Yankees and the losers of the Rose Bowl, Alabama, the Alabama Crimson Tide. And a big welcome into everybody listening in Southern California, Las Vegas, all the way over to Alabama. That would be Montgomery, Alabama, and Auburn, Alabama. How about WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves? Nice round of applause for them. It's 12:30 on the AM dial. And, of course, our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM, all the way down to South Florida, WBGY 90.3 FM, and a whole bunch of points in between. Another 206 odd stations with our content available, as well as Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable Television, and pick your favorite select market, and also on Hotel TV in all markets as well. All right, nice round of applause for all of those. I had mentioned Alabama. We'll get to them in a moment. How about this? You know, this whole college football Final Four nonsensical nonsense. I mean, first of all, the selection was off. It was off, period. In no way, shape, or form did the University of Texas belong in this Final Four. Probably, I would argue that Georgia should have taken their spot. I mean, in reality, the undefeated Florida State should have probably taken their spot. But then again, we know that the committee had what? Ulterior motives for the SEC. In any event, Alabama ends up in there, so be it. But when you look at Texas, Texas is a very pedestrian Big 12 champion team. I mean, really, they had one big win early in the season, week number 2 against Alabama. They won by a field goal late in the game. So be it. And they got themselves a W. But if you look up and down their schedule, this was a very weak team. And they beat a weak Oklahoma State team to win the Big 12 championship. And then you watch the Sugar Bowl. Now, I watched the Sugar Bowl. And I said, all right, here's Washington in a up-ticking Pac-12 conference, the final year of the Pac-12. And you're expecting big things from Washington on both sides of the ball. And, of course, Penix does what Penix does, and he throws the ball, I don't know, 38 times, whatever the heck it is. Right? Throw. It was so much RPO from Michael Penix Jr. Frankly, it was tiring to watch. Penix this, Penix that, Penix this. Oh, well, Penix threw for 430 yards. So what? Washington allowed the Texas Longhorns, a slightly better than average team, score 31 points. Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, let's take a closer look here, because Quinn Ewers, their quarterback, 318 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, blah, blah, blah. All right. Penix had 430 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So be it. But if you look at the distribution for Texas. They had a more balanced attack, and they exposed Washington in a few different ways. So you look at the rushing yards for Washington. Now, let's face it. You've got 430 yards passing, and then you've got, well, looks like 103 yards total rushing, which isn't bad. That's not bad. But when you look at the other side, the other team, 318 yards passing and about 175 yards thereabouts rushing. So there's a lot of ball control going on there. And it wasn't a lot of 3 and outs, so to say. And the passing distribution was fairly equal on both sides. But I would argue, outside of 2 guys on Washington, they really had, I don't know, I would say moderate distribution. Whereas looking at Texas had guys with 70 yards, 45, 39, 32. So you've got essentially 6 guys with over 30 yards, and then a couple of guys with a catch apiece. Now, over on Washington's side, I'm making a point here. They had 2 guys with over 100 yards to dominate. So Odunze and Polk had most of it. So you ask yourself, what about distribution? So how is Michigan, who beat Alabama in overtime, how is Michigan going to treat this Washington attack? Well, first of all, I was having this dialogue with a graduate from the University of Washington, and he was telling me, how great they are. I said, look, they're playing a better than average team, maybe. That's about it. It's not a tough opponent. Now, you got to hand it to everybody. Listen, everybody over in Auburn, you know who Alabama is. You know them very well. And Alabama is clearly head and shoulders a better team than Texas. Head and shoulders above them. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, they are certainly better than Texas. But what Texas did was Texas exposed Washington, unlike other teams in the Pac-12 were able to do. So what Texas said is, look, we're going to pass the ball around. Oh, yeah, we're going to pass it around. And tell you what we're going to do. We're going to send it out to 8 different receivers. Mind you, a couple of them had 1 each. But let's just say 6 different guys caught multiple passes. Now, that to me is impressive. And even the bottom guys, 39 yards, 32 yards, whatever. You had 2 receptions and 4 receptions. But the other guys, 45, 70, 75. It was very, very consistent. And it looked like the sweet spot for Texas was between 10 and 20 yards. So they were really working on that soft second level coverage. Whereas Michael Penix Jr. was looking at things beyond 20 yards. He was looking at passes beyond 20 yards, right? So you got a 52, a 77, averaging 20 and 24 yards per, right? So with a little bit of yak, I mean, you still had a deep pass. And so you ask yourself, what does it take to make a deep pass in football? It takes time. Now, what is Michigan going to do? What does Big Ten football do? Big Ten football, good Big Ten football, pushes the pocket. Now, they will absolutely contain Penix within the tackle box. They're not going to allow him to roll out. So they will contain, but they will push the pocket. So you can see the edge guys putting some pressure on, but not blitzing. So essentially, you'll probably see late stunts to keep this guy somewhere hemmed in the pocket. But as the front line, the defensive front pushes, likely you're going to see Penix run out of time. Now, we saw a little bit of that in the Sugar Bowl. And so I had given a projection that I believe that Penix was going to throw for 230, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in a 31-17 loss to Michigan next week. Now, I'm not so sure that is going to be the case, but after watching where Penix was weak, where he sort of started dancing around, had happy feet, and it seemed to be when the pocket was pushed. So what I also noticed is that the quarterback rating for Mr. Ewers on Texas was still 125.6. He didn't set the world afire. He didn't play bad. His percentage completion was 55.8% versus Penix's dink and dunk for a lot of those, and he had some big ones at 76.3. I don't care what the ratings are. But what we noticed was that Washington did not contain the way that they probably should have. And if they think that they're going to be able to contain, well, they thought they were going to be able to contain Mr. Texas. But the reality is that I don't think they're going to be able to contain McCarthy. So therein lies a small problem. When you think about what Michigan does. Now, Michigan, whether you like it or not, folks, Michigan is arguably the most balanced team on offense, defense, and special teams in the nation. They beat a very good Alabama team, like them or not. So you could compare those teams left, right, and center. But it was a very, very good game. And in fact, it was a very efficient performance by J.J. McCarthy. 221, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And over on the other side, you had Jalen Milroe, who threw for only 116 yards. No touchdowns, no interception. He got sacked 6 times. So what does that tell you? Well, tell you what it tells me. Alabama sure didn't do a whole hell of a lot. They ran the ball. And so Michigan said, I'll dare you to beat us with the pass. You can go ahead and run for $160, $170, whatever the case. The reality is they only had about 300 yards of total offense. That's it. And when you look at that, you say, all right, well, where was this game won? Well, Michigan comes up with, I don't know, something to the tune of, almost 400 yards of total offense. We'll say 350, whatever the heck it is. The reality is Michigan dominated this game, but also Michigan did things on defense that Washington is not used to, meaning they did what? They pressured the quarterback. They had 6 sacks against a very good Alabama squad. What do you think they're going to do to Washington? I think it's going to be a very, very long game for Michael Penix Jr. Watch out. Michigan will probably get this win 31-17 or something like that. Don't doubt that one. Take that one to the bank. Sell the bookmaker sent you. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more.
800-957-6209. 800-957-6209. 800-957-6209. That's 800-957-6209.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests. Our prior guests are recorded shows, which are podcasts. They can be found on all podcast platforms, whether it's Apple or Spotify or Google or Audible or Amazon or Pandora. Folks, you can't get away from us. Also, make sure that you check out our partners page. Lots of great partners over there. And one of them, obviously one of our favorites, is Al's number one Italian beef. Yes, Al's number one Italian beef. Check him out on goldbelly.com. That's goldbelly.com. And just put in the little search bar, Al's Beef. ALS space beef. Folks, it is the best damn sandwich you'll ever have. I got to tell you, I don't get anything for saying this. It just keeps being it. They've been in business for over 85 years. They are the originators in the Italian beef sandwich. Very different than that Philly cheesesteak sandwich that basically is just a fried sandwich. This takes an entire day to prepare the beef. It is really good stuff. If you don't know what it is, check them out at goldbelly.com. Order some. And you know what? I'm not getting paid for this. I'm just telling you, you'll love it. It is what it is, folks. And believe me, you will thank me for it. Yes! All right. Welcome back to everybody on TV and radio. You know who you are. Going to continue on with college football because we did finish the Final Four. Now we're down to the championship game, which, of course, will be coming up on January 7. And that will be Michigan hosting Washington. Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite over Washington. I'm happy to think that this is going to be a 31-17 kind of a game. It's going to be the favorite. It's going to be under. It's going to be Carolina on the 4-letter network, so you can watch it over there. Over and under is 55.5. I'm looking for about 45 points to be scored in this game. Michigan's defense is just too damn strong. If you look at what they've done throughout the entire season, they have averaged, from the defensive side of the ball, they've given up approximately just over 2 touchdowns a game. That's it. Whereas Washington has given up significantly more. Michigan has very good linebackers, a really good secondary, and their front four is pretty good. This is going to be really tough sledding for Washington. I think that second touchdown that they get, because I'm guessing it's going to be maybe 31-10 late in the game, Penix gets a touchdown pass somewhere to make it 31-17, something to the effect. But I'm looking for Michigan to dominate this Washington team and basically make an example out of them and say, oh, by the way, welcome to the Big Ten next year. That's right, because Washington, Oregon, and USC and UCLA join the Big Ten next year, and they're going to have to deal with Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State and all those. It's going to be really, really difficult to travel across the country and play in these places. And this is no joke, folks. This is smash mouth football, and a finesse game that comes from the West Coast is going to meet smash mouth football every week. and they're going to experience what it's like to be beat up every week, and then you got to get up for the next game instead of playing that soft passing attack, that West Coast offense nonsense. This is going to be tough on those 4 teams, and of course the scheduling is going to be tough too. But I think that Michigan is going to absolutely smash Washington. I can't see it any other way. So folks, if you're in the betting world, consider the idea of Michigan minus 4.5 and under 55.5.
Show me the money!
Oh, yeah, we're going to show you the money. All right, some of the other bowl games, we had some really entertaining bowl games. A pretty good Oklahoma State team did somehow, they let Texas A&M stay in the game. Not really sure how that happened. Oklahoma State's a pretty good squad. Texas A&M has nothing, in my opinion. Those guys are awful. Somehow they mustered up 23 points against Oklahoma State in the Texas Bowl. The Holiday Bowl, which is usually the most exciting game every year. It's always a great matchup somehow. This one is the Pac-12 of the ACC, and it featured USC dropping 42 on Louisville, who only scored 28. However, Caleb Williams will likely be the number 1 overall pick. The question is, what are the Chicago Bears going to do? We'll get to that later because the Bears actually have 2 top 10 picks. But USC gave up a bunch of points because that's what they do every year, and that's why they didn't win the Pac-12. Now, moving on in some of the other bowl games, we had the Fenway Bowl played where? At Fenway Park. And it was Boston College over number 24 SMU 23-14. That was sort of predictable, kind of a home team there. And let's face it, you've got the ACC, the new bound ACC SMU Mustangs headed into the ACC to play Boston College, which is an ACC team. Those 2 teams will probably see each other next year. So, again, that is essentially a conference game. Now, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Yes, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. We'll give a nice round of applause for that. Now, that was exciting. The Pop-Tarts Bowl was exciting. In fact, after watching Kansas State, one of the better teams in the country, even though they finished up at rank 25, K-State was a very good squad. They beat number 18 NC State 28-19. I love the fact that they had the Pop-Tart mascot. And the Pop-Tart mascot was really, really true to form. If you like Pop-Tarts, you know what I'm talking about. And the trophy after, outside of the regular hardware, they had a gigantic team-sized Pop-Tart that everybody could stick their hands in and grab some. And, you know, here's the thing. So I'm watching this thing, and I'm excited because I like Pop-Tarts. And after watching the Pop-Tarts Bowl, what did I do? I sat down and I ate 6 Pop-Tarts. Unbelievable. But what an exciting game. The Pop-Tarts Bowl is a really good one. The Alamo Bowl, which featured Arizona and Oklahoma. Oklahoma, you know, their helmet looks like a paperclip with the O and the U. But it was Arizona beating up on Oklahoma. 14th ranked Arizona 38 to number 12th ranked Oklahoma 24. Again, Oklahoma with no defense. Well, this is what Lincoln Riley brought over to USC, no defense again. And so that Lincoln Riley system stayed at Oklahoma. And, of course, they give up 24 more points. The Cotton Bowl, this was my favorite one because it featured the Missouri Tigers and Mr. Schrader, a small but yet the best running back in the country. The number 1 running back in the country. I think he's 5'8" or 5'9". And this kid is a little Mack truck. Yes, and they pummeled Ohio State, not by score, but they beat them up. It's kind of like Rocky Balboa, to the body, beating them up on the inside. Ohio State didn't even score a touchdown. 14-3, Missouri, the number 9 ranked Missouri Tigers, beating the number 7 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. That was exciting. In a wild one, it was Clemson somehow, some way, in a back-and-forth shootout in the Gator Bowl, beating Kentucky, a very good Kentucky squad, ACC-SEC game. And that was a fun game to watch. And even Dabo Swinney after the game was just like, wow, I just sweated off 5 pounds. What a wild game that was. And a big disappointment, it was the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Thought Oregon State was going to give Notre Dame a better game, but they didn't. Somehow Oregon State seemed to have left their team in Corvallis, and they let Notre Dame score 40 in a 40-8 rout. Pretty embarrassing. Talk about embarrassing. Florida State sat 24 of their players in protest of not being in the Final Four. Frankly, I don't blame them. And they let Georgia run up 63 points on them in the Orange Bowl. But the reality is, when you look at the game, and there's some people I know a guy that does a show on, the Florida Gators radio network down in Jacksonville, Florida. He's saying, oh, ha, 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 Florida State. Yeah, right, because it's the Florida State, Florida nonsense, whatever. Reality is, Florida State is a better squad than what they showed, and they were certainly every bit of that undefeated squad. But when they were snubbed from the Final Four, which they should never have been in the first place, they're like, well, why should we even play the game? So Georgia runs up 63 on them in a lopsided victory. And Georgia, frankly, could have replaced Texas in the Sugar Bowl anyway. They probably should have. Anyway, the Peach Bowl featured a very good game between Ole Miss and Penn State. And Ole Miss drops 38 on Penn State. Number 11, Ole Miss, 38. Number 10, Penn State, 25. And a very entertaining Peach Bowl. The Rose Bowl, which we talked about briefly, was Michigan 27 over Alabama 20 in overtime. A very good team. In fact, that was probably your national championship game. Whoever won that one was going to win national title. In the Fiesta Bowl over in Tempe, Arizona, it was Oregon 45 over, before the game, undefeated Liberty, but they only scored 6. Now Liberty finishes 13-1. Welcome to playing big-time football. Bo Nix with 5 touchdown passes. Hell, he probably could have had 10. We've talked about the Sugar Bowl. The Citrus Bowl featured Tennessee 35, the abysmal Iowa Hawkeyes nothing. And the Reliquist Bowl, not really sure which one that is, featured a very, very good, exciting game. Took a late comeback from LSU, 35 over Wisconsin. The Badgers, they scored only 31. But a very entertaining game. Folks, these bowl games were pretty exciting. We'll see when they change it to 6+6 next season. So we don't really know what's going to happen next season, but we are going to see more teams in this playoff. But what a disaster this playoff is. And we're going to get into maybe some fixed football games in the next segment. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here on the Sports Circus. Yes!
Can't beat fun at the old ballpark, friends. Hi, pop fly. That would be a home run in a phone booth. I don't know what the big deal about Cracker Jack is. Did you ever go and buy a pack of Cracker Jack thinking you're going to get a prize and find no prize in the box? Here's the pitch. That might not sound important to some people, but when you're a little kid, especially from humble origin, and they cheat you out of a prize. There's a bouncing ball. Second baseman has a Barbary over the first. It's hard to think in laudatory terms of the product.
I think that there was an occasional box of Cracker Jacks that found no prizes for the little Harry Carey many years ago.
You got that right. And boy, when a box of Cracker Jack to me meant a lot of money. Here's a pitch, bounce foul. That's the most asinine marketing I've ever heard of. 1 ball, 1 strike. These guys say, well, you sing about Cracker Jack. I said that I only sing it because it's in the song. Here's a pitch, foul back. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised, even to this day, some youngsters who buy a box of Cracker Jack don't find a prize in the box. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 out. Well, if you're going to talk about our congressman being crooked, here's a pitch, foul out of play. Why not talk about commercial products that don't do what they represent to do?
There's a smash to Squires. He's got it. 1, 2, 3, nothing across. We're going to the bottom of the 7th now to score. All tied up. Milwaukee 4, the White Sox 4. Hey! Everybody! All right, Nancy, let me hear you. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. White Sox. If they don't win, it's a shame. Or it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. And it is. Holy cow. This crowd is wild.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Tom Brenneman. How do you not love that music? Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure to check out the sportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, or recorded shows, which I'd mentioned previously, which are podcasts. They can be found on all podcast platforms. Also, check out our partners page. One of those partners that's been with us for quite some time is the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Yes! All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, plus all of our independents. Everybody watching on television, Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable Television, as well as Hotel TV in over 500,000 rooms from coast to coast. Thanks for joining us. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. On Instagram, we are TSC Show. That's TSC Show. And on X or Twitter, we are at The Sports Circus. And on Facebook, we are Sports Circus. All right, make sure you like and follow and subscribe and all that other fun stuff. Check us out also on YouTube as well. So in the NFL, I have to bring this up. Now, everybody has exhausted this one to a point where you could just puke coat hangers, I suppose. But during the Detroit and Dallas football game, there was a lot going on in this game. And yes, there was the Jimmy Johnson Ring of Honor. Okay, congratulations, Jimmy Johnson. We'll give you a quick round of applause. That's it. So Jimmy Johnson gets his, how about them Cowboys, whatever. Well, the reality is, you had two teams playing for a lot. And it happened that Detroit has had a very good season, and they continue with a very good season. These guys are playing good ball. And unfortunately, when you look at the way certain things that has happened with the Detroit Lions, you scratch your head and say, well, wait a minute. How did some of this stuff actually happen? And what I'm referring to is, look, these guys can play on the road. They're a pretty good road team. Now, they've given up more points against than the Cowboys, and they've scored less points than the Cowboys. Their spread, or their net points, is about 110 less than the Cowboys. But Detroit is 6 wins against 3 losses on the road, while Dallas remains somehow undefeated at home. But what I'm after here is the reality. Detroit did everything they were supposed to do, and they won that game fair and square. Even the announcers scratching their heads seemingly, what's going on the field with this call, with that call, with this call. The reaction from former players and current players, conversations I had with former players, Super Bowl champions, saying, what did we just see on television? The 2-point conversion. That was apparently somebody was illegally touching the ball, number 68 was. Well, the reality is both people reported like they were supposed to. Both linemen reported. Apparently, conveniently, the referee was walking away when number 68 was reporting. It doesn't matter. The reality is Detroit had that game stolen from them. And I even told the guy that I was talking to that was giving me play-by-play on it when it was occurring. I said, watch and see. Detroit's going to go for 2 and try to win the game on the road. Sure enough, they did. They scored the 2-point conversion, and it was called back due to some BS penalty. The reality is
They wanted, being the powers that be, the money, wanted Dallas to win the game, but they wanted Detroit to cover the point spread, which they did. I'm not just making this stuff up, folks. You could see this game in and game out. Game in and game out. It's the same thing. Garbage in, garbage out. And all we seem to see ever since all this fantasy betting garbage has really taken center stage, when right here in Las Vegas, the big casinos have gotten involved, what we're seeing, I don't know, it's what I'm seeing, and you're probably seeing it too. What we're seeing is the apparent fixing of games in plain sight. Kind of like how the government fixes the vote. It's the same thing, right? We're seeing the same nonsensical game fixing, apparently. Right? We have to say apparently because we can't say for certain, now can we? But our own eyes are not going to lie to us. We know what we see. And so it is an abomination when you see what happened in the Detroit-Dallas game in the same way that you see what happened with Cincinnati and Kansas City. I mean, it was ridiculous. Even the announcers, Tony Romo was scratching his head after Browning had thrown the ball to his running back. Joe Mixon was out in the flat, and apparently the ball was just, he missed him by about 5 yards, whatever. The quarterback was rolling out or stepping forward on the run, missed his receiver like any other incomplete pass, but somehow magically that was called intentional grounding, which changed the entire remainder of the game. Conveniently, Kansas City ends up winning the game. Cincinnati conveniently is out of the game. Now you ask yourself, that was just one of several calls that went Kansas City's way, and it was remarkably obvious. Tony Romo was like, that wasn't intentional grounding. Even I think the other guy, whoever was doing the play-by-play, said the same thing. The reality is, these games, in my opinion, have been terribly compromised because of sports betting. And why would they want, the powers that be want Kansas City in there over Cincinnati? Well, Patrick Mahomes is there, first of all, and Travis Kelce is there with the sideshow of Taylor Swift. Well, why is she important? Well, Taylor Swift is way more popular than either Mahomes or Travis Kelce in the first place. And what does she represent? She represents a worldwide following. She represents a mixed male and female audience. She also represents the possibility of a lot of votes. Yeah, a lot of votes. Guess what? It's election year. So we're thinking, maybe they keep showing her on TV because they're going to think that, maybe she's going to get people to vote for the blue team. Because as we understand it, there may be some connection to the blue team. Well, the reality is that if they keep showing an international figure, people will say, she's at the game. We're going to do whatever she does. And when it comes time to voting, oh, that's right. What's Taylor Swift doing? Because we want to be just like her. And then what does the powers that be that control those machines, what do they say?
Show me the money!
And I'll show you some votes. And this is what we seem to see. And so what are we seeing here, folks? We're seeing potentially the priming of the pump for manipulation of the voting public from what? From professional sports. Why? Because people look at professional sports, and now we're going to entangle the music world, which notoriously is blue, generally speaking. So the reality is we're seeing the early influence of voter influence. So why in the world would Cincinnati be a logical pick when they don't have a country music or a pop star or whatever the hell she is? You see some kind of a pop star. Well, not even say country. We'll just say, I guess, a pop star. Whatever. She's one of the biggest people in the entertainment world today. And a lot of people are going to want to do what she does. And guess what? For everybody else that doesn't like that kind of music, well, they sure as hell like, I don't know, the guy that catches the ball that's dating her. Right? Of course, they're going to probably like that. And they're going to like the team, and they're going to like what they stand for and everything else. So there's voter influence. I don't see Cincinnati with that influence. I see Kansas City with it. And folks, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That makes a lot of sense. But here's an interesting thing. When you look at the AFC, you say, all right, Can Baltimore represent the AFC in the Super Bowl? Yes, they can. Does Lamar Jackson have the ability to throw over the top of the defenders? I'm going to argue he does not. We don't see him throw the high-arcing ball over the defenders. We see him throw it on a line. And sometimes he gets picked off. Sometimes he throws it away, which is fine. But reality is, to be successful in the National Football League, you've got to be able to throw it over the top of the defenders. Now let's take a look at Tua Tagovailoa, right? Tua does what? Tua throws the ball over the top. He's a good quarterback. So Miami just took it on the chin by Baltimore. But then again, this is not the playoffs. But Baltimore would have to go through them, and likely they would have to beat a very, very difficult Cleveland squad. And those guys defensively are about some of the best in the business, we'll just say. They're not the best in the business, but those guys can play defense. And with the revival of Joe Flacco, there's a lot of confidence in Cleveland. I think a lot of people are overlooking Cleveland. People say, well, Baltimore has the best defense in the AFC. Maybe they do. So they've only given up 263, and the next nearest team would be Kansas City at 282, and then beyond that would be, Buffalo at 297. But reality says that Cleveland's defense is awfully good. The one thing that Cleveland's missing, obviously they're missing their number one running back in Nick Chubb, who is arguably the best in the business, been injured all year, but they do have the revival of Joe Flacco. These guys got them believing themselves, and guess what? There's a chance that Joe Flacco could play his old club, Baltimore, in the AFC title game to go play the team in the NFC, which likely will be San Francisco. So the game between San Francisco and Baltimore didn't mean a whole heck of a lot because the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. So be it. Short memory. San Francisco is better than every other team in the NFC. Certainly better than Dallas. Better than Detroit. Better than Tampa. Those are your division leaders. Better than Philadelphia. We've already seen that movie. Certainly better than the Rams. And then the last spot being either Green Bay, Seattle, or New Orleans. They're better than all of those teams. It's going to be San Francisco. And I'm going to say the Cleveland Browns at plus 3,500 to win the Super Bowl are going to be up against that ridiculous machine of the San Francisco 49ers, which, again, just like the Michigan Wolverines, are good on all three sides of the ball, offense, defense, and special teams. And what's interesting is that San Francisco team originally being built in its current power status and the way it was been driven for the last decade or so under the guise of Jim Harbaugh. And where's Jim Harbaugh right now? Jim Harbaugh is with Michigan, and he's done the same exact thing with the University of Michigan. That's why they will win the national title. But you look at San Francisco, they are built to win multiple championships. Hell, it's not even fair with all the talent they've got. Nobody's going to beat San Francisco. Nobody will beat San Francisco. It doesn't matter what happens in all the games previous to in the playoffs. It's going to be San Francisco, and it could be Baltimore, but I happen to believe we could see an upset, and it could be Cleveland and San Francisco in the Super Bowl. Now, that would be cool. I'd like to see two teams that's never been in there, but we're not going to see that. But it would be fun anyway. But likely, even if it's Baltimore, they're still going to lose to San Francisco. They are good, folks. That's why they are a plus 210. Put up 100 to win 210. And those are the current odds, according to the sports betting right here in Las Vegas. That's going to do it for today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you next time in about 23 hours on your favorite station. So until then, so long, everyone.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. floor without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.